Now, last night, in the middle of the night, 18 trucks carrying these defense equipment and guarded by some 8,000 troops amid protesting crowds. Why do you think the U.S. wants to speed up the deployment of this system?
It is because of the afraid that the Americans are afraid that with the new president elected, they might be opposed to sort of deployment. If you look at the leading candidates of ROK, we can see both of the two leading candidates are opposed to those sort of deployment. At least they will have to re-examine the deployment. Therefore, they want to create the effect there, and they have deployed there. Mm-hmm. So it will be very, very difficult for the new president to remove it from ROK. So this is they want to the de facto deployment. So this is very important for the United States.
Now, we have talked about this before, but again, I want to ask you, some people in the United States says that the THAAD is a purely defensive system. However, China and Russia are firmly against it. Is it purely a defensive system in your eyes?
No, we can say that no system is purely defensive. Actually, THAAD system is not intended for the protection of ROK and the U.S. forces in ROK. It is because it's THAAD, high altitude, high altitude, yes, terminal high altitude air defense system. So it has a capability of detecting the missile at a height of about 200 kilometers. I don't think a DPRK will launch such missiles against ROK or U.S. forces in ROK. So that's impossible. Therefore, we would argue that it is mainly intended to reduce the credibility of the strategic deterrence of China and that of Russia in Okhotsk Sea and in the Far East. So this is the major purpose of the deployment.
Now, over 3 years ago, you already envisaged that the THAAD system would be deployed on the Korean Peninsula. What made you think back then?
Because I don't think ROK and the president of ROK have the capability to stop the deploying of the THAAD system.
Because it was something that the United States wanted to push for.
Yes, it is because that the United States, especially the military of the United States, are determined to deploy this system in this area so as to create some troubles on the Korean Peninsula, and this will provide the conditions for the Americans to consolidate its presence in the peninsula, on the peninsula.
Do you think the situation can be turned around still?
I don't think so.
So it's going to be a reality for China. Now, China has said, and the latest statement from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs is China will take resolute measures to oppose it. What measures could China take in this regard?
Well, I think we can take different measures. One is the economic measures, as we have witnessed in the past few months. And the other is the military measures. I think we will have to take countermeasures against this sort of deployment. And I think, technically speaking, it's not very difficult for the Chinese to deploy attacking missiles or cruise missiles or even aircraft to destroy this sort of deployment in case a war breaks out between China and the United States or between China and the ROK. So it's pretty easy.
Do you think China should do it?
No, we will not necessarily have the preemptive strike against this system. But in case a war breaks out, I think that's a must. We will have to first of all destroy this system. Otherwise, the strategic deterrence capability and credibility will be seriously damaged by this sort of deployment.
Where do you see the THAAD system being deployed next, now that and if it really gets completely installed in the Korean Peninsula? Where else do you see it emerging?
I think this is not the last deployment in East Asia. I think this is only the beginning of the deployment of THAAD system in East Asia. And the next one will be Japan. I think Japan has declared that it will accept the deployment of THAAD system in their territory. And of course, it will sometimes we'll have to look into the future, the change of the relationship between China on the one hand and those countries on Southeast Asia on the other. For example, the relations between China and the Philippines. I really wonder if the present president steps out, and I don't know what the situation will be between China and the Philippines. I don't know if the Philippines will turn over to the United States and they will negotiate deployment. Of course, I don't think there is no possibility at all for the Americans to deploy it in Taiwan, which is a part of China. But I think they will not deploy it by itself, but they will persuade Taiwanese to buy them and deploy it.
So, in fact, what the United States, if you draw the lines, what the United States wants to do is create a chain of this missile defense systems containing China in this part of the world. Is that what they're trying to do?
Yes, that's a must. I think it is a very important component of the strategic deployment of the United States, and also a very important component of the deployment of missile defense systems in the world of the United States.
So the situation doesn't look very optimistic in your eyes.
You are right.
And what can we do about it?
So we will have to take some countermeasures and make preparations. I don't think it's very difficult for us to destroy this sort of system in case of war breaks out.
At this particular moment, let's not worry too much down in the future. At this moment, will the deployment of THAAD or the beginning of the deployment of THAAD have any negative effect on the volatile situation on the Korean Peninsula?
Of course, it's very, very destructive. I think it will arouse the opposition from the DPRK. On the other hand, it is a very, very destructive factor to the strategic stability, not only between the United States and Russia, but also between China and the United States. And this is not constructive at all.
Now, on Wednesday, the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, Secretary of Defense James Mattis, and Director of National Intelligence Don Coase released a joint statement about the DPRK issue. In that statement, they said the core message of U.S. President Donald Trump's approach aims to pressure North Korea into dismantling its nuclear ballistic missile and proliferation programs by tightening economic sanctions and pursuing diplomatic pressure with our allies and regional partners. The United States seeks stability and the peaceful denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And however, we remain prepared to defend ourselves and our allies. And in response, the DPRK had this to say. Let's take a listen.
조선반도에서 전쟁이 터진다면
Once war breaks out on the Korean Peninsula, no matter who started, the U.S. will have to be blamed. The U.S. is not satisfied with current hostile policies against us. They deployed a number of strategic weapons to the peninsula.
Now, Professor Hu, seeing that message, does it surprise you? Or, I mean, it seems that they have come again to the kind of political solution or diplomatic solution after talking very harsh about, possible military strikes on the DPRK.
I think if the Americans approach to take a diplomatic solution, I don't think the situation on the Korean Peninsula would have developed to the present situation. And I think the Americans only believe in the strength, the military capabilities and the economic sanctions. Actually, we are not short of sanction on DPRK. Now, what kind of sanctions can work? This is a problem. I think the best way for us to resolve the nuclear issue on Korean Peninsula is to talk. Without talk, I don't think the problem can be addressed.
Do you think under the current situation, is there any possibility that any talks can be restarted anytime soon?
I think if it can start, it will be the best. It will provide an opportunity for all of us. I don't think at the present time the DPRK will accept any any intimidation and the pressure from the outside.